Full time at Selhurst Park, and it's Crystal Palace 1, Liverpool 3, thanks to a Virgil van Dijk header, a lovely finish from Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, and a late Fabinho penalty. The Reds now move to within 9 points of Man City with a game in hand, so I'm sure we'll all be delighted with that result. I'm Patrick Smith, and I'm joined by Matt Addison on the Debrief Live on the Blood Red channel. Matt, what's your initial thoughts on that one?
Yeah, it was a game of a few different sort of portions, wasn't it? I thought the first 40 minutes or so, Liverpool were absolutely superb, absolutely dominant. Could have been 3, 4, 5 up, and it wouldn't have flattered them. So I think it was a strange performance, a performance we've seen a few times actually from Liverpool this season, where they get themselves a couple of goals up, don't then kick on and play particularly well for a period, invite a bit more pressure onto themselves and have a sort of spell where they don't play particularly well. But I think across the course of it, I do think they deserve to win. I think if they hadn't have won it, it would have only been their own fault. And like I say, we've seen that a couple of times. You know, you think of the Brighton game and one or two others this season. Brentford probably falls into the same category where they've scored goals but not been able to defensively be on it. But yeah, overall, I think Liverpool did deserve to win, but they could have made it a hell of a lot easier for themselves there.
Well, it was a very dominant start from Liverpool. Palace were sloppy, and the first goal was a prime example of that. It's the first goal we scored from a corner in quite a while. I can't remember the last time. And Virgil van Dijk as well, a lovely powered header, but it was poor defending from Palace, Matt, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really poor, wasn't it? You can't leave someone like Virgil van Dijk unmarked. I think a couple of their players just collided with each other, and sort of from that moment on, really, you just knew what was going to happen when the ball is stood up in a perfect position like that. You just know that Virgil van Dijk is going to put the ball into the back of the net. So yeah, it was a good start from Liverpool. It was a good ball in, a good finish, but yeah, far too easy. I think Liverpool now have scored 9 from set pieces this season, which is more than any other Premier League team. But like you say, it does not feel like that in the slightest.
No, it doesn't feel like Liverpool.
It doesn't really feel like they beat the first man a lot of the time, which is quite often frustrating. But I think, you know, when you've got Robertson, you've got Tsimikas, even when he's been on the pitch, it's been good. And obviously Trent Alexander-Arnold as well. I think you only have to get 1 or 2 of those dead ball deliveries right, and you will eventually find the back of the net. So yeah, it was a good sort of sign to see that from Liverpool. And yeah, it was an important start to a game, which, you know, it can be difficult at Selhurst Park. We saw that in the second half, but the first 40 minutes, Liverpool just made it look really easy.
We mentioned his name there, Andy Robertson. I thought he was brilliant again today. A lovely pair of assists from him. You know, there's the start of the season talk whether Tsimikas might come in and replace him, maybe, but no, Robertson's definitely cemented his place. And a lovely setup for the second goal from Oxlade-Chamberlain, and also a very nice finish from him, Matt, wasn't it? He's doing very well at the moment.
Yeah, it was good to see him back, wasn't it? Obviously, went off a week or so ago and had the swollen ankle and has come back. He's only trained once, I think, since then, and obviously missed the game midweek. So it was a good finish from him. Another great ball into him from Andy Robertson, and obviously then from that moment, you expect the ball to hit the back of the net, but not every player would have that kind of composure. So yeah, it was a good finish. I think it's the first time since February 2020 that he scored in 2 consecutive appearances for Liverpool, which is important as well. I think it's been a period which we've kind of known about for a long time in terms of Liverpool. They were going to lose, obviously, Mane and Salah, obviously Keita as well from the midfield. But in terms of their attacking options, in terms of the goals, they needed other people to step up. And I think it's fair to say that they've done that. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain is a prime example of it. Diogo Jota has done really well as well. But I think for me, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain has been a real positive, really, when he's played the last couple of games. Obviously, Brentford played in the same position on the right-hand side of a front three. I know it's not one that he absolutely loves playing. I think he'd rather play a little bit deeper. But there are, you know, a good few arguments to say that that's maybe a better position for him and one that he's most suited to. So yeah, it's been a good couple of games for him. It's a good couple of goals that he's been able to score. And yeah, I think it was an important one, wasn't it, to obviously get Liverpool a couple of goals in front, and it was nothing less than they deserved. So yeah, it was impressive. He still needs to kick on and do a little bit more. It'll be interesting, obviously, once Salah and Mane are back, whether he gets many minutes on the pitch. But certainly for the period that they've been away, I don't think Liverpool can have too many complaints.
Well, it was a very dominant sort of first 40 minutes from Liverpool, but Palace did then have their spell. You mentioned Liverpool players stepping up. Well, some players who quite literally do step up is the back four, playing that high line as we're used to, having the heart attacks over the past couple of years. And Palace did get in a couple of times, and eventually they did get in and they did get their goal. Was it deserved, Matt?
I mean, it was to an extent. I mean, Liverpool should have been absolutely out of sight by that point, and they should have been able to control the game a little bit better. But I think you do have to give credit to Palace. I think obviously Liverpool played well the first 40 minutes, but I think it was probably equally as much Palace didn't play particularly well and couldn't get out. So you always knew that they were going to improve at some point. The disappointment really for Liverpool is that they allowed them to do that and allowed them to get in. I think, look, the goal is okay. It's a goal which is well worked, but Liverpool will probably think that they could have done a little bit better with it. I think Virgil van Dijk's got a couple of players running off him, goes with one, leaves the other, and ultimately that's sort of been costly for them. But yeah, it was. I wouldn't say it was a deserved goal in terms of the way that the game had gone up to that point, but at the same time, it did sort of feel a little bit like it was going to come, and for Liverpool to be able to survive that and go again. Thankfully, they just about managed to get the job done. But yeah, look, you always know it's going to be difficult. You always know at some point Crystal Palace are going to have a sustained period. That tends to be the case. But as we've seen now, I think it's 10 or 11 wins in a row against Palace for Liverpool. They do generally tend to get the better of them. They are able to kind of survive those moments. And that was obviously the case again today.
We have to be fair, we were under the cosh for a lot of the second half. And the man I've not mentioned yet, Alisson Becker, what an unbelievable performance from the holy goalie again, Matt.
Yeah, he was brilliant, wasn't he? There was 2 or 3 saves there, which, again, I think we've said it plenty of times about him, but he makes these things look a lot easier than what they are. I think it was a back heel. I can't remember quite who it was from now, but that very nearly goes in, doesn't it? But he gets down and saves it really well. And I think it's, a testament really to his agility, but also his positioning as well. The fact that he can get down that quickly and make it look as simple as what it was. It certainly wasn't an easy save, but for Alisson, he very much falls into that category. So yeah, was superb, and obviously we know the importance of having a goalkeeper who is that influential. Obviously not just in terms of the saves, but in terms of being on the ball as well. I thought Crystal Palace at times did try, to be fair to them, to press Liverpool, but when you've got an extra outfield player effectively in your goalkeeper, I think that makes a huge difference at the back. So yeah, I'm sure he won't want to be quite as busy in future games. I'm sure he'll be having a few words with Joel Matip, who I thought was not particularly impressive. Again, obviously came off midweek and didn't play particularly well. But yeah, you can have 1 or 2 below par performances when you've got a goalkeeper as good as him, and I think that's what we saw today.
I know it is well documented, but his positioning alone is just incredible. He doesn't need to make these big saves for the cameras because he's just so well poised. The back heel is a prime example. The one where he's running backwards to tip it on the bar. Great positioning, great awareness, and we're so lucky to have him. But we were under the cosh. Fabinho scoring the penalty late on to put the game to bed for us. But the penalty itself, Matt, is causing a lot of controversy, should we say, on social media. What are your thoughts on that decision?
I can understand why people think it's harsh, and I tend to agree with them, but I do think it's a penalty. I think if it's anyone other than the goalkeeper and they go into Diogo Jota, or Diogo Jota initiates the contact, it's still a foul. I know the argument from a lot of people has been, well, Jota's played the ball, he's not going to get to the ball, but it's absolutely irrelevant that that's the case. The ball has gone, yes, but it doesn't make any difference if it's a foul. It's a foul. It's not like if the ball was on the halfway line and the goalkeeper takes someone out in the penalty area, you go, oh well, he wouldn't have got the ball anyway. I mean, it just doesn't work like that. It's a case of, was the ball still in play? Yeah, it was, and he does take him out. I do think Diogo Jota is clever, shall we say, in making. You
think he's looking for it?
Yeah, I think he's making sure that there's some contact there, but as soon as the contact's made and the goalkeeper has absolutely flown out towards him, I think you can't really complain too much about it. I understand why it's harsh. I think when you see it in real time, it doesn't quite look as bad as what it is. But, when you slow it down and you look at it, it was only ever going to be sort of one outcome, really. So, yeah, the goalkeeper's got none of the ball. He's gone into Jota. Jota's made sure that that's the case and made sure that that's happened. But, plenty of other players do it. And I think it was a penalty for me.
I mean, obviously we'll take it. I think it was a bit of a harsh decision, but I'm not going to complain at all. And of course, Matt, this is the last match for a while now until the 6th of February with the clash against Cardiff in the FA Cup, when hopefully some of the AFCON boys are back. Are you looking forward to the return of Naby Keita, Mo Salah and Sadio Mane?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Liverpool have done okay, obviously, haven't they, recently? They've got themselves now into that position, like we said, 6 points potentially if they win the game in hand behind Manchester City. Still got to go to the Etihad as well. So, there's still plenty to play for this season, not just the Premier League, but the Cups and obviously the Champions League as well. And I think if Liverpool have got through this period and they are going to get those players back, I think that will be, hugely important for them. It's, bit of a triple boost, isn't it? It's one of those where they've done okay, but to have that extra injection of quality for the for the last few months of the season, I should say, is only ever going to be a good thing. I mean, I wouldn't expect Mane and Salah necessarily to play in the Cardiff game, even if they are back. Naby Keita, whether Guinea get that far, I don't know. I know he's suspended, isn't he, for their game, so that will certainly not help their case for the knockout phase. But yeah, you'd imagine that by the time Liverpool play Leicester in the next league game, all three of them will be back. And, as I say, that can only ever be a good thing. If you're adding Mohamed Salah alone to this Liverpool team, that makes a huge difference. But when you add in the other two as well, it's only ever going to be an advantage.
Well, I mentioned at the top of the show, we've moved to within 9 points of Man City. I've got to ask it, is the title race back on?
They're back in sight, aren't they? I think Liverpool had to win today to make City sort of sweat a little bit. I know Pep Guardiola was absolutely adamant yesterday that that the title race isn't over. It's not done by any stretch. He's obviously always going to say that. He's never going to say anything different at any point of the season. So, look, it's one of those that we've said it for a while. It's unlikely that Liverpool can pull themselves back. I think it's not obviously just a case of Manchester City being able to drop a few points between now and the end of the season. It's also a case of, can Liverpool keep up winning and keep doing their own thing? That's all they can do. They've done it today, but they've got to now do it again and again and again to have any hope of pulling themselves back into contention. So, look, it's still absolutely in Manchester City's hands. They're still absolute favourites for it. But Liverpool have just given themselves a little bit of hope. And like I said before, the fact that Salah, Mane and Keita are coming back into it, I think that can only be a good thing psychologically, if nothing else. I think, as long as Liverpool push them all the way to the end and they don't just let them run away with it, I think that'll be okay for Liverpool from this point. Still plenty of other things to play for as well.
I think Liverpool will take that hope, win the game in hand, get 6 points behind, still have to play Man City, try and get a win there. You never know, Matt. It's still a long way to go. But Matt Addison, thank you very much for joining me. And thank you to all of you for listening as well at home. This is the last game until the 6th of February, but to get all your Liverpool fixed during the mini international break / Premier League break, I'm not sure what that is, Matt, but I think it's an international break.
A bit of both, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's some South American games. But stay with us here on the Blood Red channel, Liverpool Echo and Liverpool.com. We'll have plenty of Liverpool content to get your fix during the little break. But thanks again for joining us, and it's goodbye for now.